Christian, what do you think the wildest theory surrounding Pat Price is?
That he might have been a spy.
A spy for who?
There's a couple theories. One is Scientology.
Okay, that's a wild one.
And the other is Israel.
Wow, two polar opposites, I feel, on the spectrum of what you could possibly be a spy for.
And some people believe that's why he died the way he died.
That is pretty interesting. What was he best known for?
He was best known for remote viewing, of course. Here in Alaska, he was said to have viewed a mountain that had an alien base in it.
Wow. I mean, I've viewed a lot of mountains out here in Alaska, but I can honestly tell you I've never once witnessed aliens inside of them.
I've looked up this mountain on Google Earth.
Are we near it? Or is it like in the center of Alaska?
We're not really near it, but it's, I've probably flown over it before.
Would it explain the aliens that I saw in the sky?
If you saw aliens, it could explain it, because
there's a lot of activity out here, allegedly.
I mean, we do also live near a military base that's really active.
That we do, yes.
That could be part of it. I don't remember which direction you were looking at when you saw those.
I believe it was flying south.
Which way is south from here?
That way. So it was coming up over here. I was looking at the Big Dipper, and from that, I noticed something moving quickly. And I was like, oh, it's weird. I was like, I need to get my phone because I never see this stuff, and I'm always looking. And then when I looked up again, it was gone, and I was able to track it again, and it moved literally again, like just a kind of a weird pattern, but fast. And then it disappeared over the horizon, or over the roof, I guess, heading south. And that, actually, both times I saw it. So part of me is like, was that a satellite? But I literally think it was moving, not just in a straight shot.
No, it was definitely not a satellite, because I've seen satellites in the sky before when I lived in the Antelope Valley.
Yeah. And I feel like I have as well. And so maybe on this video, I'll overlay what the videos that I posted. And someone can tell me, because look, I am someone that has seen a lot of stuff. UFOs has never been up there. So,
no.
So the fact that I saw something, I was like, I'm just going to record this just in case. And then literally a day and a half later in the morning, I was outside the front this time, and I saw, again, almost the exact same thing, but it was maybe a little further west, but still heading south. So I'll put both of those up. And so if you're watching it, you let me know. Is this a satellite of some kind? Is it, what else could it be? It was dead silent. There was no noise, but it was moving with the quickness.
Was it? Well, whoever takes a look at it can tell us whether they think it's from this alien base.
Pat Price might have been on something. Who knows? I mean, I know Alaska is kind of a hot spot for UFOs, right? So who's to say? I mean, a lot of people out here say if you just look up at the sky on a clear night, you're going to see something at some point.
I need to look up what the name of that mountain is.
You should.
But hold on just a sec. I can't do two things.
Oh, I know, Christian.
Mount Hayes.
Mount Hayes. That doesn't even sound familiar to me. I mean, I'm not a local Alaskan for too long, so that makes sense. But
also, there's about 2.5 million mountains in Alaska, along with the lakes. So that's kind of fair not to know every single one.
No, I will continue to bash myself until I do. But,
you do that. Yeah. Briefly going back on Pat Price.
Yes.
The fact that the way he met the people involved with the remote viewing program is kind of crazy in itself.
Suspect. A little sus for our younger listeners.
Yeah, these two guys are in a Christmas tree lot. Guy walks over that's working at the Christmas tree lot, and his name's Pat Price. Introduces himself to these guys, starts talking to them, and basically says, yeah, I can see things, basically is what he said, and let me be part of the program. So they gave him a couple of tests. He did really well and is considered by a lot to be the most talented of the remote viewers that we know of.
Yeah. Now, can you name a couple? Because I'm in my head, I'm picturing the main thing that I'm picturing. You can tell me if it was Pat Price or not, but someone I know remote viewed apparently to an underground facility to the level of detail to the point where he is seeing an actual filing cabinet that is open.
That's
with
Pat
a
Price.
File. It is okay.
It's not an underground facility.
It's just a secret base or something like that. Or
go back and watch our video if you want a more in-depth story about it or telling of it. But basically, they gave him a target. It was a test target.
Yeah.
Of a guy that was in the military that had a home in the area. So what happened is he takes these coordinates and he starts looking, but then he, as he's remote viewing it, he sees something kind of like over the hill.
Yeah.
That grabs his attention. So he goes there. and he starts describing. He goes into this like a military place. Might have been a bunker, but I think it was above ground.
Some along those lines, yeah.
Maybe, but a lot of those places have stuff above ground and then stuff underground.
Sure, yeah.
He looks into this secret office that everything, the cabinets are locked. The filing cabinets are locked because it's top secret.
As it should be, yeah.
And there's a file sitting on top, or a couple files, and he's able to see names or whatever the project was. Whatever was on the files, he reported it.
Yeah.
The information got sent back to the guy in charge of the remote viewing program, and he went and talked to this military guy that he used for a test, and the guy's like, "That's not my place. Your guy's crazy. He doesn't know how to remote view."
Yeah.
You know.
He's like, "I don't have those documents."
Yeah.
What are you talking about, man? That's not me.
But then all of a sudden, somebody else gets word of this, what Pat Price saw, and he's like, realizes that's this secret place a couple miles from where this soldier lived. Yeah. So the guy in charge of remote viewing basically gets called in front of supervisors, like, this guy saw stuff that you can't see, and they're basically questioning, is he a spy? How did he do this?
Yeah.
And then after some investigation, they
it was like my mind's eye, of course.
Yeah. Could you imagine the memo that went out after that? Do not leave files on top of your filing cabinets opened where Russian remote viewers, Soviet remote viewers can see them, because, you know, I'm sure it's worded differently.
That is crazy to even think about, man. Yeah, what a world.
Yeah.
That's just strange. I mean, we kind of talked about it that one time I saw in Vegas, I saw like a weird shadow person peek out from a corner that all I could see was his eyes. And I always thought it was like some kind of weird evil entity or whatever. But the surprise that came over his face when I saw him, it had like a human quality to it. And I was like, there's just the strangest thing. You're like, oh, maybe it's a remote viewer. I'm like, damn, man, maybe it was a remote viewer. What if you actually...
But remote viewers, you can't see their body.
Maybe, but for someone that has the ability to see things in like different dimensions or planes or whatever you want to say, paranormal experiences throughout his life, maybe some people can see that. If it's an astral body, it was like pitch black, but the only thing that was visible were these white eyes with like normal human irises in them, you know? So it's a creepy visual to think about, but it got me thinking to the point I was like, I've had some really weird exes that were into some pretty weird stuff. You know, I was like, maybe someone's like, I mean, I don't want to sound like one of those folks, but maybe they're into some sorcery. There's some sorcery afoot, but maybe it's just some random dude astral projecting or remote viewing into my apartment.
I feel it's more multidimensional in that case.
Yeah, maybe.
So, you know, like the dimensions are stacked up on top of each other. Sometimes we're going to see into them.
And sometimes they're going to be randomly peeking out a corner at someone and then be surprised when you see them and then duck back behind and disappear.
You got to see the ghost of Pat Price.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It's interesting, too, because when he met these guys at the parking lot, my understanding, or the tree lot, is at least one of these guys was also a Scientologist. So maybe that's how he...
That was like his in?
Yeah, maybe...
Like, hey, meet me here.
Maybe somebody in his church said, hey...
We're going to be here.
Go talk to these guys.
Yeah.
They're going to want to see you.
Look, I'm all about, like, kismet and, you know... divine meetings and whatnot, but that seems just a little too coincidental for me. Like the fact that you would just randomly, it's a Christmas tree lot, you'd randomly show up there and oh, I'm here as well. I'm going to introduce myself to you randomly. And oh, you happen to be working on a weird remote viewing thing. I do that myself. Some say I'm the best at it. Like there's too many weird red flags in there for me to be like, what a crazy coincidence, you know?
And I think at the time, Pat Price wasn't like, I do remote viewing. He's basically, I'm like, I'm a psychic kind of thing.
Yeah. What, isn't that, it's close. It's close to being, why not call it that, you know?
I would think that the abilities to do one or the other in some ways are similar.
Yeah.
And, you know, in this case, Pat Price was just strong in the force and could see this stuff. And
But you can be taught to do it too. That's the wild thing is that you can be taught how to remote view.
That was the whole point of the program, was to figure out how to teach regular people
and what
or regular soldiers how to do it. And they did it. And a lot of people believe there was success. They also went to the Monroe Institute, and there's CIA papers on that experience and how there are CIA people that believed that worked.
Yeah.
And so there is some evidence that says remote viewing worked, but then at some point, all of a sudden, it was stopped.
Yeah,
at least that's what we were told.
It was stopped. Sure, no, they're still doing it to this day. Almost a guarantee.
Let me ask you this, though. If Pat Price is able to see stuff like that, you have to imagine that the government, once they got a hold of that information, how do we protect
Exactly.
our bases from remote viewers? Like, do they have to
Yeah.
put up some electromagnetic shield or
know.
something around it that makes it hard
Yeah,
for...
where do you even start with that? You're like, how do we keep people from using their mind's eye to peer into our... Oh, let's burn it down.
And
That's all we can do.
that was part of the program. Once
Yeah.
the higher ups were like, okay, we want you to check this facility. And then they would put some kind of, like I said, electromagnetic thing, maybe something like that to test out to see if they could block a remote viewer. Because at the time, the reason we're doing it is because the Soviets were doing it. So it's a battle. It's a Cold War battle with psychics.
I think the scariest part of that is that you have an expiration date doing something like that. As soon as the government finds out that you can do that for them, you know that they also have to be worried that should you go rogue, it's over for you. There's no coming back from that. After you're done with that program, they're like, all right, well, thanks for that. And then what happened to Pat Price?
He had a mysterious heart attack.
Well, isn't that something?
I mean, and he wasn't a young guy. He doesn't look particularly fit.
Yeah.
He could have just had a heart attack.
Yeah. But the timing, especially with anything in the government, is always a little suspect.
Well, also, that timing is around the time where it was theorized the government could induce a heart attack. So,
theorized, yes.
Not just our government, but the Soviet government and probably the Chinese, probably any of the major.
Yeah, why not?
It would probably be simple. But
they have a group chat between all the superpowers. Like, hey, guys, we just figured out we can totally do this crazy thing that we should never do.
It was before group chat. It would have been group fax.
Group carrier pigeon.
Not that old.
Yeah.
But if he was feeding information about the program to Scientologists, which, not to say nothing, not to dog on them in this case, we can do that at another time if we want to, but they are into information gathering.
That is true.
Which any organization would be. The Catholic Church used to do it too. Because
we
that's
gather
how you
information ourselves here on the show.
Yeah, that's how you, in certain positions, that's how you gain power. That would be a problem, and that might be a reason to eliminate him. Also, if he was working with Israel, other governments might want to eliminate him.
True.
For the purpose of destroying Israel at the time.
It really is a fascinating subject, and I'm glad we covered it on the show. And again, if you haven't heard that episode, be sure to click the related video. It will take you to I believe we have a full episode up on YouTube. If not, it's a preview, and then you can find the full episode wherever you get your podcasts. But yeah, so go do that.
And let us know if you want to. I mean, I think people would want to hear some more remote viewing stories because
it's fascinating.
We have a couple that we're working on, but remote viewing is always one of my favorite things to look into because if you look hard enough, there's a lot of information. There's still a lot of theories and beliefs that might be wrong, but
they might be right.
Yeah, the fact the government used it is true.
That's
and
true.
It's just a matter of how well it worked. I've seen some of the pictures that remote viewers drew, and then I've seen the later satellite pictures or spy plane pictures. And they're pretty similar in some cases, especially with Pat Price. He seemed to be really accurate.
He was the real deal
compared to a lot of them.
R.I.P.
And there's a couple of famous names that we've probably heard of that we don't really realize were involved with remote viewing, but it's definitely one of the more fascinating things.
Have you heard of Jack Black? He wasn't involved, but maybe you've heard of him.
But his mom was involved with the space program.
Well, there you go. Madge Black.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't know what her name was either.
But she was super integral, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
In the space program.
Neat.